you hopefully till the next one, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Sandy.
I'm even learning outside and today.
Yes, see, so that's the other piece of Roam Your Soul. We make sure that we incorporate outdoor educational learning components into what transformational learning is. Those of us in the outdoor world, we know that transformation is so much more powerful when you are connected to your natural world. And so we use a lot of those elements and theories and the science-based teaching practices to make the experiences unforgettable. So we do day trips, weekend trips, retreats, all sorts of stuff. And then my coaching, of course, to deep dive into these communication strategies and relationship components and goal setting components of what your life is like. So the rituals and routines is one of those components. So you are here. Ooh, I did a transition and I don't remember doing that. That was cool. So you are here because we are talking about routines and rituals today. So here's the flow. First is, why is this topic important? So we're going to talk about some of the reasons why rituals and routines and being intentional in what those look like in your life is really important. We're going to talk about what they really are and what the difference between rituals and routines are. And then we're going to also talk about establishing effective routines so those rituals really get highlighted into the joy aspect of your life. And then we're going to talk about the obligation trap. And then we're going to really move into developing daily rituals. That's why I said you want to have a notebook and a pen today, because you are going to kind of do some reflecting and deep diving into how to apply this today. Okay, did I put this on the second slide? No, I didn't. I'm just trying to make sure what I did here. In my notes, and this is the thing, every time I try to look at the notes, I mess myself up. I just know the topic, so I dive in. So I'm diving in. Forget the notes. Here we go. Routines are important. They're super important because they create the sense of safety and security in our lives. We are habitual people. We are not evolved enough in our human design. We are not evolved enough in our human existence to not be in fight, flight, or freeze mode all the time. And what we've done is we've learned to create safety and security so that we feel more relaxed, so we feel safer, so that we have predictability, so we're not always looking for immediate threats, so that we're looking for things that are out of the norm. And that's where we are in our evolution at this point. So routines are really important for those aspects. It helps us make sure we have that predictability, that I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh God, what do I got to do today? What are the threats? What are the things that are going to cause me stress? We know how we get up in the morning, how we get ready. I put my left sock on first and then my right one. That's how predictable humans like to be. Okay. It also creates efficiency and healthy habits. So if I know that, working out for 25 minutes a day with my heart rate escalated is a healthier way to live, I can build that into my routine and thus become healthier, right? Efficiency is part of that too. I should not put my socks on before I take a shower. Doesn't make any sense. I'll be taking my socks off again and then putting them back on after the shower. So these kind of, efficiencies are important for us to think about too. Efficiency in the way too, how we do things, how we become better at doing things. So these routines are really important, and we're going to look at them because they're really important. I'm also going to give you a YouTube link here. Oh, well, let me copy link. One of the books I love to recommend in my coaching is Daniel H. Pink's book called When. And When talks about when. When should you be doing things? When are you most creative? When are you most energized? When are you most effective? When are you thinking versus ruminating? When are you best at projects? When are you best at meetings? The book is super science-based and really cool to really dive into. But some of the concepts here that we're talking about, Daniel H. Pink is an expert in, and it's a great book. So routines are also limiting because they are predictable. They are our comfort zones. They are the places where we find safety and security, right? Ouch. So here's the kind of a snapshot of the when. in terms of who you are. So the first thing you can put in your book here, in your notebook, is what kind of when are you? Are you a night owl? Are you a morning person? Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Do you feel like you are energized by social interactions, or do you feel exhausted by social interactions? All of these variables impact your energy level and ability to create space for effectiveness in your life. We're not going to dive into this totally because I only have an hour, right? So I'm throwing rapid fire some resources at you, and I want you to pick and choose what resonates with you. And if you really love this whole concept, that's why I'm moving into the more deep dive coursework and the deep dive kind of 4-week and 6-week plans, because people just want strategy and they really want to understand how to apply this in life. And so that's where I'm moving. I have people ready to jump into that, and I want you there with me. So these quick overviews are super cool, but they're just overviews, right? So write down right away, are you a night owl? Are you a morning person? Are you somewhere in the middle? My husband likes to joke that I'm an 83-year-old woman trapped in this cute little body because I'm best between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's what you get. Those are my optimal hours. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. I want to nap. 8 to 10 I don't want to talk. Like, I have this optimal hour between 10 and 2 that you get the best me. And guess what, guys? That's right now. Cool.
Yay.
Yay. I want to talk a little bit about efficiency too, because routines and rituals really help us with efficiency. And I know I kind of glossed over that in this first part, but when I start working with a team, for example, I always look at what routines we have and whether or not we even have rituals. Rituals create spaces for care, meaningfulness, purpose, ceremony, celebration. Do we have any of those? Is the culture even there for that? And what I found in the last team I worked with is that on average, when we started working together, my team was working 60 to 65 hours a week. They were taxed, they were burnt out, they were stressed, they were busy, and they didn't have work-life balance like they needed. And so I used this routines and rituals strategy to reduce our average weekly work per week. Within 1 year, about 9 months, we were reducing our workload down to 35 hours on average per week. We were highest performing, we were most efficient, and we were on the most number of projects. And we redesigned 10 of our courses. No other team had ever done that in 1 year. So that's why routines and rituals can be so powerful. And that's why we're doing this workshop today. It's not just about having a good routine. It's about what efficiency does to your life. Imagine going from working 60 hours a week to 35 and being more productive, getting accolades and awards for being more productive. My team was on fire and we were happy because we had good routines and rituals. Pause. Thoughts, ideas, questions. That was rapid fire. Boom, we're in here. We're doing it. I only have 40 minutes. This is a fun statistic that comes from Daniel H. Pink's book. So it's interesting to look at this because honestly, by about 8 o'clock, my emotional balance goes down. I don't want to deal, right? But this is kind of the bell graph here for your emotions. If we know on average when people's emotions are the best, we can also strategize our communication. We can strategize our relationship building. We can strategize our interactions with other people and ourselves. And so keeping this in mind, I talk a lot in some of my other workshops about the logic brain, the emotional brain, and then that wise brain. We want to make decisions from wise brain space. If we make them only from emotion, we tend to become irrational. If we make them only from logic, we tend to forget care. So that wise brain takes into account this emotional balance. Emotional balance means I'm capable, I'm resilient, I'm caring, I'm energetic, I'm excited, I'm loving, right? So just something to keep in mind. And also I like charts. So establishing effective routines. So you don't have to write all this down because you're going to get a copy of this presentation along with the link to the recording at the end. But what I want you to write down is, what are you currently good at in your routines? Do you have a routine? Is it like my morning routine is a ritual? Like my morning is a ritual for me. I guard my morning routine with my life. It makes me happy. It helps me get set for my day. And it's why nobody talks to me between the hours of 8 and 10 a.m. I am in a ritual space, right? So a routine can become a ritual when it becomes very meaningful to you. So what are you really good at? Is it time efficiency? Is it task management? Is it organization? Is it the flow of your day? What so far are you really good with in your routines? And what are your daily routines that you just know happen every day? So just write some of those down. So I mentioned the when theory, which is Daniel H. Pink's theory about when we are best at doing things, when we are most productive, most efficient, most creative, most interested, right? But the other book I would be remiss to mention is The Art of Flow. Have you seen this book before? So I cannot pronounce Mihaly's last name, but you'll get a link to this book, so don't worry. A lot of athletes and outdoor adventure enthusiasts know The Art of Flow because it started with really looking at tech development and looking at athletes and how they become so good at what they do. And it's The Art of Flow. So we're going to talk a little, I'm going to go into some slides on that here in a minute, but the art of flow is when you actually are with effort, effortlessly, mindlessly, with skill, doing something you love with purpose. It's kind of oxymoronic because we are highly involved, but we're not thinking about the subset of skills it takes to do the thing. We're just in a complete state of flow and excitement and joy. And in it, you just are hyper focused. That's called the art of flow. Before I go into that, I want to do a sidebar on tasks versus goals. I spent a couple sessions with a client about a month ago talking about the difference between tasks and goals, because what happens is we tend to mix them up. We mix them up big time. So goals are vision driven and they have an end vision in mind of what a difference would look like. And actions are what we do to get there. So I'm not going to go super deep into this, but I want you to think about it, because as you start writing stuff down, you're going to possibly, depending on how your brain works, go into tasks. I put my socks on. I take a shower. I do these things. Yes, those are the tasks. But the goal is because you need to get ready in the morning, right? So look, and like thinking about that difference when you're talking about routines and rituals makes a big difference in your intentionality in developing them better, okay? So I'm not going to go through it totally, but I want you to think about it as you start writing stuff down. It's really easy for me to go, well, my routine is I get up in the morning, I take the dogs out, I start the coffee, I start the fire, I do the things. Yes, but my goal is to have a cup of coffee on the couch with whatever book I'm reading in the morning. There's a huge difference there, right? So just keep that in mind. Cool. All right, I also want to mention the obligation trap. We tend to get bogged down, burned out, and emotionally frayed when we build too many obligations into our routines and rituals. I do a great workshop on expectations versus agreements on this alone. And I'm going to be doing that in April. So when we talk about the obligation trap, it's like, oh, well, I have to get up and I have to take the dogs out. I have to make the coffee. I have to see if my mom's doing okay. So I got to give her a call. We can get super bogged down by those. Now, you could move into like that toxic positivity BS that I can't stand. Well, I'm just so lucky to have to call my mom in the morning. No, it's exhausting, right? And she's not the person I want to speak to all the time in the morning, right? So we can get bogged down. So when you're looking at your routines and rituals, careful, because if you start making obligations overweigh your beautiful routines and rituals that help you get to your goals and the joy in your life, you're going to be super miserable. Don't do that. Cut it out. Okay. If you went to my Austin women's retreat, you saw the old version of this, and I introduced the new version that doesn't even exist in the world. And now here it is. This is my transformational learning target visual. So why we are talking about routines and rituals is because I am incredibly passionate about people learning, engaging, and having intentional time in their daily lives where you feel alive, you feel excited, you feel joy. And we, in our habits and routines, tend to get bogged down by obligations, and we forget that transformational learning is possible on a daily basis if we build it in and we're intentional. So hard, you guys. That's why I exist. So this is kind of a visual of what I do and what you learn to do in pulling yourself out of your comfort zone, out of your routine, out of that space of non-learning, and how to get into transformational, purposeful, meaningful work, right? So we try to skip over panic. You see this one in the big red. As a guide, a coach, an expert, we skip on over panic, but you might head into panic when you don't have the right skills or tools or preparation to learn something new. An example would be if you are terrified of heights and you're like, wow, Christine said I need to go be transformational and, change my life and stop being afraid of stuff and just, take it by the hand and just, go into life and live it. You're going to go to the top of a building and look down and you're going to have a panic attack. That is not the right way to go into transformational learning, right? What happens when you go into panic is you then have to come all the way back into your comfort space and be comforted and comfortable again before you can even try to think about learning again. This is a concept teachers use a lot, especially in outdoor education, because if I see you panicking in the outdoors, I know I have to bring you all the way back in to where you're comfortable, confident, and capable before I can try to help you learn again. And typically, we try to bring you into that learning space, which is very healthy and very fun. Like, you don't know how to set up a tent. Let me help you set up a tent. You don't know how to goal set. Let me help you goal set, right? Like, these are things you can do in the learning space that are fun and really important and really interesting. They're super practical, right? But if I want to transform you and create transformational experiences for you that you take into lifelong learning, where your life and you are different than the person who walked through the door in the first place, ooh, that's that little spot that you see in the pink there. That's the magic. And there are experts in this world like me who are so passionate about it that they're getting a PhD in it. But that space is where you become different than you were the day before in a way that you are in awe of yourself. It is a magical place to be, and where I try to drive people to on a daily basis. It's just so exciting. How do you do it, right? How do you get there? That's what I do. So that's this. Thanks, Cassie. Okay. This is another Daniel H. Pink thing that kind of fits into this transformational learning concept, which is we have an innate inner drive to be autonomous, self-determined, and connected to one another. And when that drive is liberated, we achieve more and we live richer lives. If you're being micromanaged, if you're in your comfort zone, if you don't have if you don't know how to build in that resilience and move into adventure or new kinds of learning, you're not going to feel the excitement that I know is there when we move into this space of transformational learning. Okay, rituals create joy, right? Routines can create comfort and care, but rituals create space of joy. I'm going to take a drink. I want you to read through these. We tend to forget that rituals can be and should be daily. We tend to celebrate birthdays, we celebrate weddings, we appreciate our bosses on National Boss Day, we appreciate employees on National Employee Day, which by the way was 2 days ago. So if you have employees and you missed it, go back and say thank you. You know, we appreciate them when we go on vacation or when we meditate or go to yoga, right? Like these are things that we do that are special, that create moments of joy. When we do them only in spaces of sporadic celebration, we miss out on what Pink talks about, right? We miss out on that daily richer life. We miss out on transformational opportunities. So this is where I love to spend a lot of time, is reminding myself that for me, making coffee is actually a ritual. I really love doing it. I used to make coffee for a living when I was in college and high school. It is a joy for me. And I forget that in my routine sometimes. And I will make sure I slow down and remind myself making coffee to me is a ritual and I want to enjoy it and take the time to enjoy it. So in your notebook, take a few minutes and just start analyzing your rituals and routines and where this might exist. I've talked for, I don't know, 10 minutes now, a little over 12. I want you to do a little reflecting. You can throw some stuff here in the chat. You can come off mute. But I want you to take a few minutes and just do some writing and reflecting on the learning so far and what that means to your daily life. Does anyone feel like sharing, like, what is your big aha right this moment? What is the takeaway up to this very moment in the workshop so far?
I'm scheduling I'm scheduling too much that's boom, 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 boom. I gotta have that done and not scheduling some stuff that's just for me.
Yep. I'm going to get to it, Lashana, but it's a great segue you're giving me into the most efficient people work about 53 minutes and then take 17 minutes off on average. That's like the rule of thumb. And then also we tend to not give transition, or what I call processing time, between our meetings. So typically we'll have a meeting, grab a cup of coffee, go have another meeting, go have another meeting, go have another meeting. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you haven't had any time to process anything of what anybody said or what actions or activities were discussed, right? Like we have no processing time. So typically what I like to do is make sure that you have at least 15 minutes before and 30 minutes after. And a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have time for that. Well, you're way more efficient and effective when you block in those times. Yeah. And then because I know my flow, my emotional balance flow, I know my creativity and energy flow, I will block out a block specific days where I don't have meetings. Specifically Mondays. Mondays are not my jam, never have been. And so specifically Mondays, I try to never do meetings. This is just me, right? And then you'll do like a Tuesday, Wednesday sprint a lot of times. And then Thursday is a good recovery time. And then nobody wants meetings on Fridays. So stop scheduling meetings on Fridays. That's my rule of thumb as a leader. So thanks for that. I think it's up here somewhere, the 53 and 17 somewhere, but
yeah, that's awesome.
So I wanted to jump into, is anybody, sorry, I just jumped because you got me thinking about scheduling. I'm such a logical taskmaster that the scheduling thing, I could talk about it all day. We could do a whole workshop on just scheduling. But what other ahas and takeaways do we have? Sorry, I just jumped right off that.
I was going to tell you, because that's funny, because I do the planning, but it seems like my work does just like what you said. Thursday is very small. Friday always ends up nothing, but everything's cram-packed into that Monday through Friday and Monday through Wednesday.
Yep.
So it happened naturally.
Right. Yeah, but if you're starting to feel like that Tuesday, Wednesday is super taxed, then this is like one of the fun things I love doing is helping teams like figure out why are we feeling so exhausted by Wednesday, right? And there's all sorts of reasons, but sometimes it can be the meeting schedule. All right, so this could be a 6-week course that we're jamming through in 45 minutes. So I want to try to give you some other thoughts and things to think about here, which is our routines and our rituals are reflective of our core values. So I actually do a whole coaching session and a whole workshop on core values alone and how our core values impact our interactions and our perceptions of the world. They also impact our routines and rituals, right? And they impact how we interact in routines and rituals. Like I'm not big into weddings, not my jam. Like I just don't think they're that important. I mean, like marriage is a big deal, but the wedding itself is just kind of a waste of money and silly to me. Now, if a core value of yours is celebration with your family on big important milestones, you are going to be offended by me saying that, right? Your core values speak to your routines and rituals and speak to the routines and rituals of others. So if I go and make fun of a large wedding and you had a large wedding, ooh, that was important to you, right? So just want to mention core values taking a play in your routines and your rituals and how you develop them and how other people do. And it's all based on our core values. So we had just talked about, LaShonda, the time management and understanding when. Once we start getting there, then we start looking at cadence and flow and process and all that stuff. Time management is a big part of your routines and rituals because you can start feeling bogged down and exhausted by that obligatory, oh, I have another meeting. Oh, I have to go to this wedding. Oh, I have to go to this birthday party. Oh, I have to go to yoga. Oh, right? It just becomes a lot of have-tos. Rituals are sacred and meaningful. That is why for about 45 minutes in my morning, my phone is non-existent. Like I am in the moment trying to have my ritual so I can feel that joy I know is there, right? The joy is always there. Love and joy are always here. We tend to ignore them a lot. So rituals are sacred and meaningful because they remind us about the joy and love that is around us literally 100% of the time. One of the workshops I do is on what I call the 3-point conversation, but we also talk about root cause issues and solutions. It's called Navigating Difficult Conversations. It's another workshop I do. But one of the things you can use in those strategies that I teach you is how to use that strategy actually for your routines and rituals, for your calendaring, for your project management, your time management, to actually see what is the root cause issue and solutions when imbalances are occurring. It could be a core values issue. It could be a meaningfulness issue. It could be relational. A lot of times we think, oh, I just have too many meetings. Well, it could be that too. But my point is, when you start really looking at root cause issues, we go deeper than that. And then finally, in this developing powerful daily rituals, is incorporating your 5 senses and nature. So we are hugely connected to our natural environment as human beings. We come from the earth. We are the earth. And we are not evolved enough to be disconnected from it like we currently are. Our society has kind of moved us to disconnecting from nature on a regular basis. And what I'm challenging you to do is put that back in your life. Today, for example, I have not touched anything in the natural world with my body. I have not used my senses today. I took the dogs out and it's cold and windy today and snowy. It's just really cold, windy, and snowy, and I don't want to. But I went out in my shoes, I went out in my jacket, I went out bundled up, and I let the dogs out, and then I came back in. If I had taken the time to allow my body to use my 5 senses to ground in my outdoor experience, even though it was only 3 minutes, my heart rate would change, my blood flow would change, my breathing would change. I would feel calmer and more rejuvenated and refreshed and come back in. All it takes is 3 minutes. I didn't do it. I will go do it now that I've said that, right? We forget that we have a very powerful tool in our natural world to help ground us, center us, and remind us we are of the earth, we are energetic people, and we can use the natural world around us to make us feel comfort, security, safety, care, love, calmness, and remind us that that's an important aspect of what we do. Science. Okay, considerations for your rituals. So what I want you to do is really look at your routine and think, in my routine, am I creating spaces for transformational learning? Am I creating spaces for connecting to my natural world? Am I creating spaces for joy and love and care? Am I creating spaces for me to slow down and just be present in the moment and enjoy these moments that I sometimes get bogged down by? These are the considerations for rituals. When do you forget you're doing what you're doing because you're enjoying doing it so much? The first time I felt flow mountain biking, I remember I was in Ithaca, New York. I was on a specific trail that was super flowy and windy. I hit a rock section, went over a little creek, started going up and then down again, and boom, it just hit me, this massive joy. And I was just in the moment, and I wasn't thinking about where are my handlebars going. I wasn't thinking about where are my feet. I wasn't thinking about should I pedal, should I not pedal. I wasn't thinking about what's in front of me, what's behind me. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was in this elemental state of flow where I was just doing. And that doing was at such a masterful skill level that I was able to experience joy. Super cool. So there's some charts. Again, I love charts. I love science. This kind of shows you, again, that transformational learning concept. I'm not going to go over it, But this is a great visual, because what you see is the flow state kind of takes you here, right? You start learning, you learn skills, you learn strategy, you learn theory, you practice, you do things towards mastery learning, right? And as you're doing that, you're challenging yourself to grow. If I move up here, I'm afraid. If I move down here and I don't challenge myself at all, I'm bored, I'm comfortable, right? We want to be in that state of flow, because that is where real learning happens and real joy happens. So it's just something to think about. And then I thought this other pretty one was like the one that has all the colors. I was like, oh, that's nice. And then it simplifies it. If it's too hard, you're stressed out. If it's too easy, you're bored. And part of what I love to teach in my outdoor adventure weekends and the retreats is how to move yourself. How do you teach yourself to challenge yourself to get into a state of flow where you can do mastery learning and where you can have these transformational moments? Where the ego falls away, time flies, every action, every movement, every thought, every moment just flows. And I love this because a lot of times we disconnect goals from this space, but not Mihaly. He says goals are a whole part of this flow concept. Goals are a whole part of what transformational learning can really be, what joy really is. If goals are well chosen, and if we have the courage to stick to them, when challenge starts occurring, then we can actually move into this space where we don't even have time to be unhappy. Ooh. Okay. We're at the end because I want to give a little bit of time. Yeah. I think this is it. Yep. Okay. A little bit of time for you to really let this sink in for a minute and ask me questions. So you can go and really think about how to edit, adjust, change, add this to your daily. So here's I love continuous improvement. I'm a project manager at heart, right? I'm operations at heart. And so here's what continuous improvement process looks like. You're going to define, measure, analyze, improve, and then control is kind of where you adjust and align. So when you're looking at your daily rituals and your routines, you're going to look at the difference between what you do as a goal and what you do as tasks to get to those goals. Routines versus rituals, efficiency and joy, when and flow, and then that alignment of core values and strengths. So I said sidebar on short cycles because this is what I do in my coaching. So when you run through the 4 and 6 week cycles with me, this is what we do. We take a specific part and we just narrow it down to really create impact in your daily life. And those are called short cycles. Ta-da! Get one last quote. Happiest people spend much of their time in a state of flow. This picture is from a walk that we did in Vegas last week before last. I took all these women out into First Creek Canyon and really stretched them out of their comfort zones because we went off trail multiple times and it was cold. And 20 brave women showed up to see what I was about. And this was a moment where one woman was helping another woman who was a bit trepidatious about going up on a cliff. Get up on a cliff. How cool is that? The happiest people spend much of their time in a state of flow. This state is when people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it even at a great cost, just for the sheer sake of doing it. A lot of outdoor adventurers call this type 2 fun. Type 2 fun is when it's not really fun at all. It's hard. It's really hard. And it's challenging you mentally, physically, emotionally. But you know it's creating you as a new human being you didn't understand the day before. that state of flow, when you're really, really diving into deep learning, into deep challenge, that state of flow is the joy. And you forget about the hard stuff once you hit the joy. There you go. My next virtual workshop is on March 21st, and it will be a deep dive for 1 hour into, there's a link to register. It'll be a deep dive into back to the beginning, navigating difficult conversations. We tend to avoid discomfort. We tend to avoid difficult conversations. We talk a little bit about core values in this workshop as well. So that one's on Tuesday, the 21st at 12:30 for $12. And that will get you the resources and the recording as well. So if you can't make that time, registering will ensure that you get the resources and the recording. If you really do want a deep dive, there are two options. One is the 4-week deep dive, and the other is the 6-week deep dive. So those are here. And I thought I put the links in here. I put one in here. But let me pull that up. That being said, I'm going to stop sharing so we can talk and you can ask questions. Give me your thoughts. How do you feel? What do you think? Let's brainstorm before we have to get out of here. I'm running a little slow today. I can't find my other one. There we go. And here's the 6th week. Okay, there you go. Okay, presentation hat off, learning hat on. What do you guys think?
Great info. Made me open my eye. I mean, I've went through some things, but it made me open my eyes in different areas that I hadn't thought of.
Thanks. I mean, one of the cool things about these kind of workshops is you probably know pieces of it, right? It's not anything you don't know, but it creates intentionality, right? Intentionality in our practice, intentionality in our reflection. You know, that continuous learning helps and reminds us we need to be intentional. We might know these things, but are we actually practicing them?
I liked, I think an aha moment was, for me, was that state of happiness and how nothing matters or nothing seems to matter. I just thought of, I have a young child, and like watching children when they're so involved in activity, that it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, we sometimes lose it, right? We just lose the joy. This summer, I've told this story before in a different workshop. This summer, I went back to the basics of outdoor fun. And there were multiple times when I was in the woods doing some weird stuff, like traipsing through a river, or picking up rocks and throwing them, or like getting my feet in mud, or, you know, looking for birds and like cuckooing at them. Like there were some things where I was like, man, if somebody saw me in the woods right now, they would think like, who is this kooky old lady? But you know what? I lost track of time. There was one day where I was out there for 4.5 hours, and I thought it had been 30 minutes. We lose that somewhere between the ages of 0 and, I don't know, teenage angst. I don't know.
I've learned that I sometimes put my goals in front of my tasks. So then, excuse me, I don't end up doing what I actually set out to do, because I went and had the coffee and sat down and turned on the TV instead of doing the other things that I wanted and needed to do. That's one of my like day off rabbit holes I'll go down. Like, oh, I'll watch YouTube and I'll learn something. Then I just keep watching the next video instead of doing what I set out to do. So I need to work on that.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, and that comes back to that time management, right? And looking at like what brings you joy and what might distract you from what you actually would love to be doing, right? Mhm.
And along those lines, I signed up for a, I guess, anti-procrastination course, and I had a daily email, and I stopped after 14 days. And it went for like 120 days, and I paid for this, and I didn't even use it. So, and I keep telling myself, oh, I need to go back and do this, and I continue to procrastinate.
Yeah, I think the thing about procrastination that people don't realize is it's usually an avoidance. It's like an avoidance of something. And so what is the avoidance? And that's what I like to dive into, like, how does all of this interconnect? Right? That I could tap you on the shoulder, Jeff, and be like, don't procrastinate today. And you'd be like, okay. But if I don't understand the root cause of that procrastination, you're just going to keep doing it. Right? And sometimes it's a feeling like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. Sometimes it's an environmental thing. Maybe your boss is just ticking you off. And so you don't, like, there's a piece of you that's like resistant, right? Like, there are reasons why we procrastinate, and they're actually really valid. And we forget that. It could be that you have ADHD and you're just not quite sure how to use a skill set yet, right? And there are skills for people with diagnosis to do better. Like, there are ways we can do it, right? But if we just try to blanket, we tend to miss the mark, which is why your daily reminder didn't work. That's not your problem. The reminder is not the problem.
Well, for me, I just have to get started. That's always the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
Once a minute, I get wrapped up and in that flow, but I have to get into that.
Mm-hmm. What other thoughts or questions? Do you feel like you have something to go and work on today? I'm seeing shaking heads. Yes, that's what we want. Cool. That makes me happy. That's all we can do. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas? Cool. Well, thank you. All right, I'm gonna stop recording. Boom.